and we're going to see how these two players are going to do as they're getting ready for their first game. But just before, Panda, if you've got to give the edge to someone, who do you give it to?
I think Hanachan still has the experience. He has, he has the hunger to make it to the finals and finally win a tournament maybe. But Dutch Boy also there's a lot at stake here with a challenger ticket as well. So maybe he has, a bit more hunger there too. It's hard to say really.
All right, we're going into the mulligans now.
Hanachan is bringing his Henselt. Of course, he has it open, and Dutch Boy is bringing Skellige to try and, on blue coin, Skellige is normally the best option. You have carryover, sure. You have a lot of options there, but this is not King Bank deck. It is Kraken Crate, so no carryover, no Olyard, no Morkvark, and no Wolfsbane.
Yeah, certainly. We are going to see potentially Burner Brand be a really key card here for Dutch Boy, as no weather clears are available for Hanachan. And when he's trying to line up to use that crewman synergy, Burner can find really great value.
He could run to Death Mold because Death Mold is in Hanachan's version. He's not playing a Neki. Instead, he opts for the safer version with Death Mold to try and counter some of these weather cards like Burner Brand that can cause a lot of damage in a long round. But like you said, not in hand right now.
So the traditional crack opener, like you say, one of the best available on the blue coin, I would say, in today's competitive landscape. However, he is going up against the might of the Henselt with his winches, which is a terribly scary deck on red coin.
And Hanachan does still have to develop, a few cards like Rombit and the first machine to try and enable that Henselt. But once it is enabled, it's hard to really race for tempo at that point because Henselt just overpowers you so easily. Especially with veterans, they have a lot of setup, aside from the Kraken Crate, which is a great start, which obviously gives you a ton of tempo early on. The rest of the plays at the start are a bit slow, 9 to 10 points in total. So it definitely can't combat Henselt's 30-point opener or 20-something point opener.
Yeah, especially utilizing cards such as Spear Maidens. It means that you're giving those battering rams plenty of targets to proc off of, and it can be really, really tough to out-tempo a Henselt.
We have Coral could at some point mess up that Henselt pull a little bit if Hanachan takes it a bit in a riskier way and decides to wait for that and to use that Henselt later on, which is always risky because you can, not have it enabled if your opponent has ways to kill those machines.
Yeah, certainly. Looks like we're going to see the ADC coming out for the Ulderich.
This is the first
double hunter draw.
This is the first spy check. Does Hanachan have Fowler? We see the ADC, so he has the means to get to it, but not in hand. Still, it's the first check that Dutch Boy is doing. If he's able to, if Hanachan can contest this spy, it makes this matchup a lot easier for Dutch Boy because he can have control of round 2 as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. Hanachan, like you say, though, does have the means to match it, and that's what he's going to go for, opting to play his ADC, which will play a Thaler of his own. Maybe not. He baited me. Putting it back in hand, really thinking about this one. Very meticulous player, Hanachan.
There's a lot to think about. Spies not only, have their normal effect in this matchup, but also they affect the done banners and with, being able to almost obligate your opponent to bring them out for you. So it's very useful right now, obviously, because that spy is already played from Dutch Boy. Hanachan spy wouldn't really activate or force the done banners to come out. So he's almost using a tool that could force those to come out later on.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we've seen plenty of problematic done banner draws, so losing that spy and the, like you say, near guaranteed way of getting them out at your own pace can be a really big blow.
It still gives Hanachan control of his round 1. He has, the means to try and get ahead fairly quickly once a machine is played and use Henselt maybe early on to just dominate this round 1 and try and win on even cards. We see very few golds for Hanachan as well, only John Natalis, and it looks like he does have at least one winch left, so there is the option. It's not a dead Natalis, thankfully, because mulligans can get tricky with this deck if you have, like you said, done banners and the winches and kind of the tactic cards messing you up a bit.
Looks like he's happy to play just for a good solid chunk of points with this hunter coming down. No, I'm getting baited so much by these card draws. However, one of the things I want to talk about in this Veterans deck, and one of the things that I actually think has really enabled it to be played now, is this Triss Telekinesis with Reconnaissance package. What do you think about that and how it's impacted the deck's performance?
It helps thin a lot. It also has a lot of options in round 3 as a finisher to either bring out a strong Bearmaster, for example, or a Shield Maiden to thin a bit more out. But you can also take Winch, for example, which could get you a machine that might be helpful as well, even if you don't have bronzes left in your deck. So I think Triss in general, a very versatile card. It's really never dead, I think. Most of the tier 1 decks right now are running spells in some way or another, either through Recon or Alchemy has obviously a ton of Alchemy spells, and it's almost never dead and always finds 16 to 18 points of value, which is fantastic for a gold.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of this card in Skellige and have been trying to convince people of its value for a while, so you're going to be pleased to see it doing so well in this tournament.
And there's Winch trying to create some extra machines there. Of course, there is no Neki to shuffle these back, so It's only useful really for the first one, just to make sure if you can mulligan the rest of yours into your deck. But Hanachan has 2 battering rams already in hand, so he can't really do that. He's probably going to be looking for a reinforced ballista instead from these winches.
Yeah, I would imagine so. He wants to keep those battering rams for on-the-point plays and block them with those siege masters, which can really control out a round on their own. And then, like you say, spawn a reinforced ballista and have that as his big Hensel drop.
And Coral hitting Ronvid there, very smart play. Ronvid can add up to easily over 20 points in terms of crewman synergy over the rest of this game. And there's really not a bigger target in Hensel. Obviously, machines are 6 and 7 point cards. They mostly rely on their deploy effect to get value. So Ronvid or maybe the Spy you play are the best options at all times.
Yeah, certainly. And denying that Ronvid and its long-lasting crewman impact on the game can be really high value if you aren't seeking to do that machine target removal for Henselt. So all in all, I like that Coral play from Dutchboy.
Hanachan's still not catching up. Dutchboy's still staying a few points ahead, but I don't think it'll last very long if Dutchboy continues to play this round out.
Yeah, I mean, he now has a double Siege Master pocket, which can kill a 5-strength unit, and therefore those battering rams are going to do some pretty hefty damage as each one falls down. So I think you're right. I think the longer this round goes, the more and more Henselt is going to start outvaluing his opponent.
I think if Dutchboy sees the reinforced ballista come out from a winch and still Hanachan isn't ahead, that might be a sign for Dutchboy to say maybe Hensel's coming out next turn. I have to get out of here, as soon as possible and try and dodge that huge tempo play. But then it also gives Hensel a lot of control and having last say in round 3 too. So it's a tough decision. I mean, Hensel has a lot of tools that can work well in a short round and a long run as well. With Bloody Baron, for example, as a finisher now.
Were he to commit to the longer round, Burner Brown on the melee row would start ticking pretty significant value. Only a 2 strength there, but he will want to make use of that Siege Master, so the row would most likely get more stacked. So there is an opportunity to play for the long round here, but it looks like he's just going to go for damage with the Hunter instead.
Yeah, and of course not damage the battering ram there because the Siege Master could heal it back up again. So trying to, not give Hanachan any free points, like we see here, Siege Master being played there. Would have healed the battering ram up and would not have been an ideal situation at all there for Dutchboy.
No, it certainly wouldn't have been. So Henselt is going to start doing pretty significant damage. Hanachan placing the Siege Master, killing the 5-strength Coral, and then pinging the damage, most likely to set up an additional, there we go. That will allow battering ram, even if it were to only have 1 crewman, to kill the Hunter. So smart battering ram plays here from Hanachan.
And every time a smaller and smaller gap. Hanachan slowly catching up. It was 4 points last turn, it's 2 points now. Dutchboy's time is running out, but he commits this round. He knows there's 2 Siege Masters already on that row, so that row, similar to Consume with the Neckers and the Vrand Warriors, and similar to the Longships and Skellige as well, there's units that you commit to a row and the positioning really matters, so this really makes Burner Brand much more valuable in this turn.
Yeah, I really like this Burner Brand placement because, of course, it is going to mean that if he wants to use a double Siege Master pocket again, he has to place it somewhere it's going to be taking maximum value from that Storm. So I really like the Burner Brand in this matchup, and, of course, he does know that Death Mold is in Hanachan's deck. He is not aware that it's not in his hand right now, but, yeah, I think that this could actually be one of those things that helps negate that gap getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen marching orders in some Henselt lists before. There was space for them. Now, not so much. So there is no real chance to tutor out Death Mold either. There's no really reinforcements can't pull it, of course, and winches. They just create machines, not weather clears. Fortunately for this game, so Hanachan in a bit of a pickle here, and Burner Brand might be the like you said the solution to fight this Henselt tempo.
But there is a reinforced ballista, and Dutchboy may now recognize that that is a very, very strong potential Henselt target. So does he want to weather the storm?
I think the sooner that Hanachan plays Henselt now, it makes this Burner Brand less useful, of course, and creates the biggest gap possible as soon as possible. And Dutchboy, I think he expects a Henselt coming out maybe to try and combat this damage over time from the Skellige Storm, and he might have to play very high tempo now to try and stay in reach of Hanachan's score after the next turn.
This is brilliant because some players are very good at hiding their emotions and the strain they're under mentally because, of course, playing on a stage like this is a huge pressure. Hanachan, for instance, absolute poker face, ice-cold killer. Dutchboy is not one of those players. He's a highly emotive player, which makes him a lot of fun to watch because you can really tell when he's thinking about things.
And there we see the damage on the reinforced ballista. Great play to kill that ballista with the help of the Skellige Storm and deny that Henselt play. So great heads-up play from Dutchboy, really shutting that down, and we see a huge point gap already thanks to that Skellige Storm taking every single turn for 4 damage.
Yeah, I mean, this Henselt situation is now quite frustrating for Hanachan, actually. He's got to almost roll another reinforced ballista or commit to using Henselt in a later round, and with a 21-point gap on the board, this Storm is really doing work.
It may be that Dutchboy finally found a way to win this round 1 against Henselt if Hanachan doesn't find an opening. Of course, 2 battering rams in hand denies that opportunity with the battering ram already in the board, would only pull one out, which is not an ideal play at all from Henselt. You want at least 2 machines coming out to make it, kind of average value for the leader. So Dutch Boy doing a very good job of denying these machines and really just doing a lot of damage with Skellige Storm as well. And there we go, Hanachan passes, so Dutch Boy finds a way to beat Hanachan coming in with Hensel on red coin. This is a very important moment in this game.
Yeah, superbly played first round there, so clutch.
It's not lost for Hanachan. He does still have his leader ability, and
He is still Henselt.
there are not that many ways to really interact with it as this Skellige deck with veterans. It's not like Alchemy, for example.
Oh, look at this hand though. He's got 2 of each machine in his hand, which is just denying Henselt so much value. And compared to the incredible toolkit in Dutch Boy's hand, wow, that Dunbanner draw again.
When you can't Hensel turn 1, and you can't Dunbanner turn 1, it makes it so much more awkward with your hand. You can draw into machines, you can draw into Dunbanners if you want to mulligan machines and try and get a more optimal Henselt. So we saw yesterday with Aztekov, this is one of the things that this deck can really do quite wrong, where you just, if you get unlucky, it may lose you the game.
And now I believe with no Neneke in Hanachan's Henselt variant, it is now impossible for him to find maximum value from his Henselt, right?
Exactly. I mean, at most with a lucky mulligan next turn, he may pull 2 units out because the reinforced ballista that died was a winced ballista, so he can mulligan 1 away if he doesn't use them this turn, and try and get 2 out next turn, but still not optimal for Henselt. You would want to find at least 3 to really be a game-changing play, but in this case, Hanachan doesn't have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, Dutch Boy doesn't even know it, but that was such a game-defining moment potentially there with that mulligan. And we see Wojtek coming down from the Bearmaster just to set up a nice little point play for Dutch Boy.
Important to note, being in day 2, both players have each other's deck list. They know what to play around, what could be coming at them, what to be careful with. So it's going to change a lot in terms of when to pass and what to expect and how to play around different things like Igni that it's not in any decks anymore. Proneo being eliminated yesterday with the only Igni in the tournament. So it's going to matter a lot, I think, in the way these players decide to pass and when they decide to pass and at what point. So maybe watch out for that and see what Dutch Boy decides to do here.
Certainly. We see the Bearmaster coming out again. Those cards, of course, representing so much just blunt force value for Skellige these days.
Dutch Boy really counting how much Hensel can possibly bring out. How, he looks at the graveyard, looks at the winched machines, looks at all the different possibilities with an optimal hand, what could be happening here for Hanachan. And of course, also taking into account the Dunbanners that are still in Hanachan's deck.
They certainly are. So those Dunbanners may well make an appearance this round, depending on how he plays. He's just playing for battering ram value right now, though.
Want to be careful to not give Hanachan the lead here, of course. He could have dry passed for card advantage, but he's trying to bleed Hanachan out a bit more, make a more awkward situation in terms of draws for Hanachan as well in round 3 with the Henselt still active and of course Dunbanner still in his deck. The more he plays into this, the more awkward it's going to be for Hanachan to try and get that good Henselt value. Yeah,
I think the more that Dutch Boy plays into this, the more he'll realize that things aren't actually necessarily going Hanachan's way, and he may really just see an opportunity to strike.
And Restore coming out round 2 is a big committal. This is a kind of a finisher you want to see most of the time with Skellige, but this might mean that Dutch Boy is ready for business if he does play this Bearmaster. He might just save it in hand to try and get that veteran points going right now. That's what he's doing. Domorki did the same thing yesterday. Very subtle things that could win you the game.
It's almost like these players practice together.
That could be a possibility. Maybe 100% possibility.
Yeah, I like that though. It's a nice read from Dutch Boy. He's starting to play more and more points out on the board, and he's sort of testing the waters with Hanachan, because while this Henselt does have explosive power, it really is one that requires, I would say, like an above average draw to really hit its full potential. And Hanachan simply hasn't had that. But this is going to be the signal now that there are ballistas in hand.
I think this is the moment that Dutch Boy passes. He knows that there's a chance for Henselt to come out next turn. He doesn't know how many reinforced ballistas are still in Hanachan's deck, and he says maybe he'll overpower me. It's time to get out now. And of course, there's no Shawnee being played in Hanachan's list, so this is one less reinforced ballista to worry about. So it already kind of messes up your deck a little bit more with the Hensel draws as well.
Yeah, the questions are there any breaks on the veteran train? He could just be going for significant bleeding here.
I think it would be a mistake, to be honest, to not
pass. It would be a very high risk
taking
play.
A big risk. You have a pretty decent hand for next turn.
He certainly does.
You'd want a res for that decoy, ideally. Yeah, I think the decoy might be a bit dead, but it's a good choice here because there's only one reinforced ballista left in Hanachan's deck.
Well, like we're saying, it's a really high-risk play, and arguably you could make many cases against doing this. Little does he know it's actually going to pay off. But yeah, in this instance, this is actually a very good move by Dutch Boy.
I think he knew the decoy could be dead next turn. He didn't want to take that risk. Instead, decided to take the risk here and see if he could mess up Hanachan's plays there a bit. And of course, he'd take it to the very edge where Dunbanners do not come out. Almost 19-point difference, but not enough to get those Dunbanners out. And really, Dutch Boy, calculating all the different possibilities and making sure he's going to be on top in this turn.
So Hannah-chan needs to basically hide that reinforced ballista in his hand for the mulligan, and then hope he hits it on winch. Really not looking good in Hannah-chan's hand state right now, so the Siege Master is going to come down, double shoot that Priestess of Freya and take it off the board, close the gap to 4 points, but these hand states are looking...
Maybe the pass. If Dutch Boy is feeling a bit riskier, it could be a Shield Maiden, but...
The Shield Maiden could come out.
That'd be a really big risk. It's less tempo, I think, than the Freya with a decoy.
To be fair, we keep saying it's a really big risk, and then he does it anyway, which I appreciate. So I think that we may see him play into this, but it is a nice opportunity for a pass for sure.
And a 4-point gap only means that if Hensel has two battering rams, two
Oh,
reinforced
he's
ballistas
going for it! Taking a winch!
No real good options here.
No fantastic options. It's actually going to be the reinforced trebuchet. I believe it just offers the biggest value. He got a 3-hit with the ballista as well, but the trebuchet's high base strength does make it the best value for Dutch Boy to take.
And because Dutch Boy has won round 1, he will have last say in round 3, and that also means that there's very little chance that Hannah-chan can get out those done banners in round 3 as well, because he will be going first, and both spies have been played already, which I think Dutch Boy knows this for sure. He's gonna really pray to the RNG gods that Hannah-chan can draw into some dumb banners as well and maybe mess up his draws that way. So that could be game deciding too.
It certainly could be. I think Hannah-chan is looking a little bit on the ropes here, but you can never discount the power of Hensel or how good Hannah-chan is as a player either. So the first game certainly seems to be a strong showing for veterans so far. It'll be interesting to see if Dutch Boy proceeds any further into this round.
I know Neneki doesn't give you the flexibility to play some of your machines in this round and then try and Neneki them back and use a Hensel or a winch next turn. Neneki is played. So it's Hannah-chan that does have Neneki in his deck, and it's Dutch Boy that has Hensel, or has Death Mold in his Hensel. But that list is banned completely, so no Death Mold being played today at all, only Neneki. And this changes the game completely.
Yeah, our apologies, that is a case of wrong deck list. But anyway, he does have Neneki available to him, so that does certainly change the course of action here.
And now winches are much more important as well. And Dutch Boy, now he clearly knows, he sees the cards that are shuffled back into the deck, and he knows that Hensel's going to be very powerful, and says, yeah, I want out right now. I don't want to sign up for this, Hensel tempo play that's going to be coming up very soon. Unless Hannah-chan wants to risk it and keep Hensel for round 3.
Yeah, we could see that come out. I mean, that's so risky though, right? Actually, no, it's 11 points, but then the fire would be equal. Yeah, that's so risky.
Hannah-chan really thinking what his best
option is. He would need a
here.
battering ram from winch to do it, right?
Exactly.
It's the only thing that can do it for him, I think.
And that's a very risky play to make when there's so much on the line.
Oh, he's going for it. No battering ram. Oh, Siege Tower
will be at 12.
Yeah, Siege Tower.
That also is enough. By 1 point there. Barely squeezing through.
My goodness, 1 pointing the round. Gets to keep his Hensel. Huge deal. But he does not have the winch available now to proc the Hensel, so he needs to get fortunate with his draw here.
And still done banners could be a threat here instead of a help for his deck. Selkirk, a great option. I don't think he's going to risk it here. There's really just a lot to risk if you mulligan there for the done banner. Could come out, so... Dutch Boy really thinking here.
Reconnaissance, not too bad a mulligan to get. Ballista goes down with no target.
And the Selkirk has a great dual option here with the bear at 11 points.
Certainly does, yeah.
Maximum value at 19 points.
Yeah, it's not exactly what Dutch Boy's going to want to see come down. That is a max value Hensel, like you say, Selkirk due to his armor.
And a standard value Hensel with 2 machines, really the average play there. Nothing too crazy with 3 machines or more, but still very good tempo for round 3. And this may just be too much for Dutch Boy. I mean, we see the Selkirk at 19 points as well.
Selkirk's going to be huge.
Elevating Hannah-chan to 43 points, and I mean, Dutch Boy would need a ton of points, 31 to make it. And we see only a recon. I mean, 2 bronze cards. I don't think that equals 31, really. Freya's going to be pretty decent.
Unfortunately for him, that Bearmaster's not dead.
That's the thing about the Shield Maiden options as well. What kind of officers would work? What kind of units you can pull out still.
Patient, but she brooks no insult.
I promise you a quick death.
Tied here. Selkirk coming down for 19 points. Very strong gold there.
Yeah, huge Selkirk comes down. Dutch Boy's not going to have enough to overcome this.
Time for blathering is
As nice as the Bearmaster is.
It's close.
It's very close, but he does go down by 3 points. My goodness, incredibly close match between these two players. That the Nekke that did actually exist was really the pivotal moment of the game.
And they almost play, the decks play very differently with Deathmold or Neki.
They do, yeah.
Deathmold is much safer, but Neki, like we saw here, can change, a game completely. I mean, Deathmold would have done very little to help Hanachan in that situation, but in this case, it helped him save that Hensel for round 3 and still have it be a fairly decent tempo swing with 2 machines coming out of the deck. So Hanachan, sigh of relief there, first game in the bag. And I mean, normally when you play Hensel on Red Coin, you want to win that game. If you lose it, you know that's a very bad start to a series.
Yeah, but that was incredibly close nonetheless. This Veterans deck is having strong showings, but it is his strongest blue coin opener for sure. So do you think we see him swap it up for Red Coin now with Bruva?
It's a possibility. I mean, it's hard to really say because the players really adapt and change their strategies between every single series. I think against different players and different decks, of course, very few lineups are exactly the same. Maybe Demorcus and Dutch Boy had very similar lineups because they are practice partners, but other than that, it's hard to really predict. Hensel on Red Coin is obvious, but other decks are harder to say. And we do see Dagon and Bruver. So Bruver coming in for Dutch Boy, the only Scoia'tael deck left in the tournament, and Dagon coming in for Hanachan.
Yeah, now we have seen Scoia'tael put a lot of points on the board very quickly. And will we see a repeat of that? We see War Dancers, everyone's favorite card, and Suri Nova in hand too. So not a bad opening hand. The War Dancers going straight down on the board.
And this prevents the dry pass from Hanachan, who is blue coin in this matchup. So it's not as effective as round 2 dry pass because sometimes you normally just want to play into the matchup even if you're blue coin. But Hanachan has been dry passing a lot on blue coin in yesterday's series, so this could really hurt him in this round. And he sees it come down. We're going to have to see the reaction from Hanachan here.
See Suri Nova drop from the hand, put back into the deck. Doesn't want it this early on, of course.
And that's why this is a deck that thins a lot. You have a ton of different cards that are able to cycle through your deck with Officers and Saskia, for example. And of course, you have just Recon and just a ton of thinning options with Merc as well. So that's why not too worried about putting one of his win conditions back into his deck. But War Dancer here changes the game completely for Hanachan. I think he wanted to dry pass here. He has a good long round deck with multiple sources of weather and Arc Spores as well to ping for 1 damage every single turn.
Yeah, so we see Hanachan committing Dagon, getting a Foglet out of his deck. Now, don't worry, this is no triple Foglet madness. There is 2 Foglets in Hanachan's deck, so that is one of them, 1 remaining in the deck. Definitely not going to lead to such terrible mulligans.
And that's why with Yorvith, I mean, the sooner you play this out, the better. You would have maybe wanted to hit an Arc Spore maybe, just to deny that value over time, but it's just some more instant value and no kind of drawback like the Arc Spore that pings for 4 damage when it does die. Like a bit of a little bomb there, bomb effect.
Yeah, I really like that Yorvith actually hitting it for max value on the removal and also buffing 7 elves in hand, I think is value that you just can't turn down from it, because hitting an Arc Spore, not only do you get the 4 damage blowback, but you also lose 1 point off of the removal too. So I really like that choice of Yorvith there.
And Dutch Boy probably going to want to play either his leader, do a little bit of a spy shenanigans with Cleaver as well, or maybe Elven Scouts early on to get that, maybe possibly a Smuggler, one of those units that gets you a lot of value over time if you play it early on.
There's going to be Barclay Elves into Cleaver, very popular Scoia'tael opener these days.
And there's a removal.
There he goes. Barclay does not die in vain, playing a very powerful Scoia'tael combo there.
And Hanachan gets the full value from that Arc Spore there. Could have hit the Barclay Elves and only hit for 2 damage, but instead does hit Bruver, the leader card, for 4 damage. So total value, optimal value there for the Arc Spore.
Yeah, leaving a lone Foglet who isn't looking too confident against the golds and silvers he's faced with.
And of course, only Frightener can really kind of move a unit into that fog row. Right now, nothing on it. There's no Whalers, no Harpooners in this Dagon Deathwish deck. So, or we have Drowners, of course, also with Monster's Nest.
Yeah, I like the Drowner from Monster Nest here. It's an interesting option. You do sacrifice playing Monster Nest for the Barbragazi or the carryover. So, I like it here, though. That Fog, once placed on the board, you have to get value from it. Otherwise, your Dagon has really not been too great.
No Drowner.
Ancient Foglet, let's go.
Not a card you see every day.
Not a card you see every day, indeed, but it does sort of replace that Arc Spore's ticking value. So, Yeah, fascinating use. And he knows that in Dutch Boy's deck, there is no Shiru or anything, so there is no Scorch coming out for that Foglet, so it will continue to take value.
I think it's a big tell that Hanachan aims to play his Frightener very soon and drag a unit into the Fog that way. And overall, it's going to be more points over a long turn playing the Ancient Foglet and the Frightener instead of just the Drowner. If you're going to Frightener anyway, there's no need to. So I think very smart play from Hanachan, thinking a few steps ahead of his opponent maybe and trying to get that maximum value here.
Yeah, it certainly does represent more in a long round. Dolblathana Bowman comes out. Getting some of that movement synergy going on.
Bamboozle, why play Elves when you can just play movement instead? Maybe Bruverhoog gives us a surprise cameo later on. Maybe some Golden Weather too, but that would be very surprising for Hanachan and for us as well.
So Dutch Boy now has the ability to proc Aloran with the Half-Elf Hunter in his hand, as that will of course spawn 2 Elven tokens. There being 3 on the board. Aloran appears when 5 Elves are present. So he does have a nice little tempo play available to him. That would be 19 points, actually.
Yeah, Aloran would be a great, it's a ton of tempo, it's some thinning as well. It's a great card to have if you're playing a lot of Elves. And there's a Frightener, like we mentioned, coming out immediately and just making sure there's going to be something ticking in that fog for a lot of turns to come.
Yeah, definitely. And Dutch Boy does not have the spy capability to reply to this, so very important Frightener there from Hanachan.
Great options here. You have the Smuggler for some long-term value. You have the Defender if you want to go for carryover. Your opponent does have Cyclops though, so it may be not the best option. The risky pick here, not much value from Dutch Boy, but it does kind of force Hanachan to try and get rid of that now. He can't right now. There's only 4 units with 4 damage. Then obviously killing the Ancient Foglet to kill the Defender isn't the best
Would be
option.
ideal, man.
But that Dow there does say a
Dow
lot.
deals with it perfectly indeed. I think the Defender was a very risky pick from Dutch Boy here. And I'll be interested to see how Hanachan deals with removing that, as I imagine he will be fairly keen to.
Also, the Defender, of course, is a Dwarf, so no synergy there with the Elf, with Sasuke and the Vanguards, for example.
So this Mercenary will be enough to get Aloran out as well, due to that Elven Scout. So Aloran is coming out. There's a Dwarven Mercenary. Movement synergy, let's go. You got a Bowman.
He doesn't want it. He prefers the Elf body, which I think is the correct play here. It's got the full value from the Vanguards as well.
My flavor. Where is it?
Let's enjoy the weather while we still
Alright, right head officers coming down. There's going to be a Vanguard. It's going to be an explosion of points. Unfortunately for him, Aloran doesn't hit the board first, so he does shave a point off of that.
Still a very big tempo play for a bronze card.
Play still,
He goes for the Doppler instead. So had to try and get that as many elves on the board as possible to then use the Vanguards with the Saskia, for example.
Yeah, there we go. That Saskia does represent a huge explosion of tempo on the board. However, those Griffins are not weak either, representing 17 points each when played on the Dow.
And great play from Hanachan. In no rush to kill a Defender. He knows that he can catch up in 2 cards at any point, and he has to play 2 cards anyway because he's not going to catch up in 1. So he knows he can play the Arch Griffins first to get the value from that Dow before killing it with a Cyclops. So great heads-up play from Hanachan, really thinking a few steps ahead, which separates these players from a lot of other good players, but not top players in Gwent.
Certainly does. There's that meticulous nature that lends itself very well to competitive Gwent. Is this the moment for the Saskia? No half-elf played yet, which is interesting, because that does represent 2 tokens, but it's actually going to be 1 Vanguard and 1 Siri Nova, as he wants to make use of that officer with the additional Vanguard, I imagine.
And probably take another officer and just to have 2 more Vanguard plays later on. Could just go for 2. Yep, just goes for the huge tempo swing right now, just to scare off Hanachan.
So he can take one of those back for the officer play. He gets the War Dancer for round 2, which I definitely like.
Yeah, it's a safety net. I mean, if you do end up losing this round, you have that War Dancer to really mess with your opponent, and Saskia guarantees that, which is really a great gold card in this archetype. I think it really works well with so many different things in this deck, combos well, and just it provides a ton of value, like we see here. An enormous gap already in this board.
Certainly is a large point gap. 33. Hanachan needs to play 32 to overtake due to the fog damage, and that is on. Big ask. It's going to be 2 cards at least, and that's with his most powerful things like Griffin coming out.
Well, Fog will take twice, so only 30 points needed.
Of course, yeah.
And it looks like it will be enough with Dow and the Griffin, so you could still catch up in 2 cards. Hanachan might go for a Griffin now and then go for just to kill out Defender later on with a Cyclops. And of course the Ancient Fog gets sticking as well, so even less points than that, only 28 needed to catch up. Over 2 turns, very feasible for this Dagon. Once you have the setup there, you have the Dow played already, a very slow tempo. You can really set up very high tempo turns later on.
Be interested to see how Dutch Boy proceeds into this. Do you think he passes, or do you think he commits, seeing as his elf swarms out?
Yeah, I think he has to commit now, right? I mean, you have everything out already. There's really no reason not to. I think you have the safety net with both the War Dancer and the Defender as well, but he's looking to go for a pass here.
Interesting pass, seeing as that means that he's certainly not going to get the value that that Vanguard currently represented. So.
Maybe scared of a Rot Fiend providing a very big tempo swing in this very advanced round, but perfect swing here, more than enough points. Big difference here, easily with a down Cyclops combo, plus the Ancient Fog and the Fog taking an easy win there for Hanatan, but he is a card down to that blue coin start. And Dutch Boy has everyone's favorite card, War Dancer, ready to go for round 2.
Yeah, War Dancer, not a bad card in this situation. We will see it immediately. Mulligan slammed down on the board. Too fast for you, Hannah-chan. A Doppler comes out in its place.
And Dutch Boy has a better finisher as well. Do you think Hannah-chan wants to go for a long round or a short round here? Or just try and overpower this 3-point War Dancer and try and make Dutch Boy go behind in cards by playing very high tempo here?
That's a really powerful opener from Hannah-chan. Definitely making a statement as to his intentions in this round, because it doesn't create a big enough point gap to, you know, it be a sort of like one drop and hope to get a card back. But it does say, like, hey, if I'm going to play into this round and it's going to go well.
Yeah, I mean, he may not get his card back right now, 1 point away at the moment, but I think he will get in a few turns. Like we said before, Elves have a great start in round 1 if it's played out, with Aileron coming out and just a lot of great tempo options. But in round 2, in a kind of short burst, you know, first 3 turns, not the greatest. I mean, we don't have that many Elf on board already. Aileron's out, and Hannah-chan will get his card back here. So a great way to counter this War Dancer, just going really high tempo in round 2.
Yeah, it certainly is. We see an interesting choice from Doppler here for Dutch Boy. Neophyte representing 12 points, but the Hawk Portal allows him to do more targeted buffing. It's going to be on Ibar Hattori, which of course increases the resurrection capabilities of that card.
I think he's very smart here, going for that Hattori instead of the Surinova, making sure to not go all in on just one card, which could punish you if Hannah-chan pulls this round 2 very far and decides to, you know, go all in into this round 2, which he might be doing. This is a very high tempo play here as well.
Very aggressive play from Hannah-chan here.
We see an enormous point gap and Arcsport taking every turn as well. I think Hattori will have to be played here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll be Hattori for as many elves as possible going into the Officer Mulligan onto that Vanguard. But even then, if Hannah-chan keeps pushing, it's a big point gap currently present.
We may even see a risky Officer into Yavin Mulligan, but that could, you know, end up drawing you Yavin in round 3, so it's a risky play for sure.
Yep, there's the Yavin.
So he goes for a very high tempo play, but he's risking the Yavin, you know, the drawing into it in round 3, which is very risky. So you have to be careful with his mulligans the next round. Maybe not going for the most optimal value, and instead trying to play it safe.
Yeah, it certainly does add that added risk element to the mulligan. Hannah-chan going for the pass, 13 points to clear for Dutch Boy, which is potentially still going to require the use of Hattori, which is far from ideal for him.
I mean, Recon is risky, of course. We have to see what he has left in his deck. That's why really under pressure here. I think what his best option is, he obviously doesn't want to commit cards like Hattori or Surinova, which can be great in round 3. A lot of points left in those cards, but he may just have to. Vanguard not enough. And yeah, Hattori goes down. So Hannah-chan a great pass there. I mean, making his opponent commit one of his better cards. He finds a big enough gap. Arcsport, of course, also taking for 1 point. So a 15-point gap, or 15 points needed for Dutch Boy here.
He's looking like he's considering the Surinova. What do you think about that potential?
I mean, Hattori at 6 points is already great. It can res a few more targets, and it does provide elf bodies as well. This is a big bleed from Hannah-chan if he finds...
That's huge. Hannah-chan's going to be very happy with that.
He did also commit his Brewis to this turn, though, so both players traded one of their better gold cards and better finishers in this matchup. And Dutch Boy now can draw into Yavin. He has to be very careful with his mulligans. He could find an officer to get rid of that Yavin as well if he has any left.
There's a double Vanguard, though. He's going to have to mulligan one of those. Or the Reconnaissance. The Reconnaissance goes, and it's Yavin.
There it is. That's the risky play.
Does not look happy with that whatsoever, and that is why that officer play in round 2 was so high risk. Because mulligans like to come back to bite you.
He could res an officer here with Hattori, I believe. It is at 6 points.
Yeah, he can.
The officer's 5 points base strength, so that buff from Hattori also opens up his officer swap, which is fantastic on the Yavin. And he does get an Elven Merc pack. It is not dead. It has Recon to pull. But does Recon have any bronze to pull? That's the question.
Well, with only 5 cards remaining in his deck, we're going to find out pretty soon.
Yeah, I think he's counting it himself, making sure he has at least 1 card left that's not, you know, a War Dancer, for example. Which would not be ideal.
I think he has a half-elf Hunter, potentially.
This is a Nova list, so only 2 bronze units per card.
Yep.
Might have a Doppler as well for
He
that
didn't
Elven
play the
Merc
half-elf
instead.
out round 1 though, did he? So I think he's got a half-elf hunter at least on
Yeah,
Reconnaissance.
looks like he does. And a Doppler as well, it looks like. Nope, no Doppler. Both Dopplers are used already, so going to be
Everything
recon
alright?
into the half-elf.
There it is. There's the half-elf hunter.
And a lot of points here from Dutch Boy in 2 plays. 38 points, not counting that Arc Spore damage.
However, that Cyclops is a pretty big boy on the Dow.
And now very quick plays from both players. Big Cyclops. Osriel will be an 18-point play.
It's just not going to be enough though. This Vanguard must represent the victory for Dutch Boy here.
I was hoping you'd say that.
The Arc Spore is still taking, but I think there's just too many points here. 18 points coming from
Wow.
this Osriel. Eating a Spy. A very usual finisher here for monsters, but just not enough points here. Dutch Boy, a great buff on Hattori, also
Yeah.
enabling that Officer
It
res.
turns out that created Hawker's support off of the Elven Scout was really just the core card of the game. They had buffed up that Hattori, allowed the Officer to mulligan Yavin, and yeah, everything went his way.
Really thinking outside the box as well. Many players,
Oh, yes,
you know, you have your very specific game plan you follow every game. You play Siri Nova, you play Hattori into Elven Scout or into, you know, Elven Mercenary for a recon or a Doppler, but thinking outside of the box, thinking about that Officer, to be able to mulligan that Yavin that in round 3 is, you know, terrible, giving your opponent points for, you know, very little advantage. And Dutch Boy, great game there with Bruver, getting a win on Scoia'tael, the only Scoia'tael left in this tournament, and 1-1 in this series against Hannah-chan.
Yeah, so Scoia'tael lives on, and we have Dagon available for both players. However, Hannah-chan has Jan Calvate, and Dutch Boy looking at his crack and crate veteran list. So, a couple of interesting decks to come out from both players.
And Dagon very similar for both players, although Dutch Boy does have, for example, Gills and Muzzle, a card that could be very good in some matchups. And we see a
It's that
Dagon
mirror,
matchup.
let's go.
A mirror right away. So I'm probably going to get rid of Roach there in the Foglet. You know, both players, very easy, you know, at least first mulligans. Do some golds represented for both players as well. 3 golds for Dutch Boy. Quite happy to see all that. And he has all the cards he needs to pull Foglets out. So this is, you know, an easy way for
Yes.
Dutch Boy to not play any dangerous games. He has 3 Foglets in his deck, very similar to Demorkis' list. And it's a mirror, so blue coin dry pass is also very common. We see it a lot just to try and negate that negative aspect as much as possible. Obviously gives Hannah-chan much more control, but in a mirror, when players have very similar cards, for the most part, you're going to be fairly equal. Although Dutch Boy with 3 weathers instead of 2, and, you know, a bit of an advantage there in a very long round 2 or 3.
Yeah, both players have their spies in hand to answer each other, which will be a relief to them. But right now, I am liking the fact that Dutch Boy isn't going to be bricking on those Foglets unless he draws 2. He does not, he draws
Okay,
1.
you want to blacklist that, get rid of that Foglet right away.
yeah,
And
he needs to get those out.
She-Troll a great pick as well. A good combo with the single Rot Fiend that Dutch Boy has in his list.
Yeah, both hands looking pretty fearsome right now. However, with the ways to get all of that fog out, Dutch Boy could potentially have a lot of value in a long round.
And Hannah-chan with the Slizzard, it in some ways denies the Brewist because you are consuming that Slizzard, that Arc Spore in the graveyard. So it takes some value in that Muzzle, proving so massive. I mean, creating an
Yes.
engine unit by stealing your opponents, and also a huge, not just 40-point swing, but if you count all the points that you're taking from your opponent and you're adding to your own engine count, it's you know, absolutely massive. Hannah-chan knows he has to go very high tempo here to try and punish his opponent.
Muzzle's certainly one of the most impactful cards ever introduced to the game, I'd say. It is a great card in this instance because those Brewest denials are just so huge.
And great little thing from Hannah-chan there, playing the Fog into an empty row because the Arc Spore, of course, moves every single turn. So if you play on the row where the Arc Spore already is, it's going to say, well, see you later. Fog's not going to hit me now. Bye-bye, but catch me if you can. But in this case,
I'm pretty
it
sure
falls.
that's its voice line, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, really. I should be a voice actor maybe as well. I nailed it. But Hannah-chan gets the perfect move there from the enemy's Arc Spore and gets that damage on it. He wins the 50-50, basically.
He certainly does. It's it's the smart play. And both players getting their Woodland Spirit out across that card with Foglets in deck represents a nice chunk of tempo. And there we go. The fog is starting to line up.
So it's a clear signal that both players are going for a very long round here. Frightener, once again, can move a unit into that empty fog row on Dutch Boy's side of the board to get that full value just next turn. So Hannah-chan wants to thin out his Foglets first and then play that Frightener, I assume, to just be able to not get any very bad draws from that Frightener since you can't really pick like other spies.
Yeah, we're seeing fog responded to with fog here as both players sort of entrench in He's not going to be happy with that Foglet placement, though.
Very, very naughty Foglet running into that empty row that really was, you're just giving your value. Of course, Fighter would be played next turn, so it wouldn't matter too much. But still, not very well behaved.
We see Spy reply to a Spy, of course.
Might draw Foglet, though.
It might draw Foglet, that's a very good point. It is not, though, it's an Ozrel. He avoids it.
Draws one of the best cards in his deck to be able to eat that Spy in round 3 and get that nice 18-point finisher. So Dutch Boy very happy with that Ozrel coming in.
Yeah, again, much like a Spy in a mirror match, it's one of those very important pieces that you really hope you have if your opponent plays it, because otherwise if you can't respond with your own large tempo play, it's going to be problematic for you.
And both players have to be careful with stacking rows. Rot Fiend is a very big issue in punishing, a very stacked row in a long round. So we see only one Rot Fiend from Dutch Boy's list that Hannah-chan has to be careful for. And Hannah-chan not bringing any Rot Fiends at all.
No She-Troll, no Rot Fiend, so definitely the row damage potential there is in Dutch Boy's favour enormously. But will he want to keep that potential burst for a later round?
Will Dutch Boy go for the third Fog here? He has the option to, with the Weather Maker in his hand, and he goes for it. Rademacher.
Rademacher comes out, gets the third Foglet out. That is a very foggy board on Hannah-chan's side.
Just one more row to just get the Fog Exodia to come out, as we all know.
Exodia.
6 rows Fog summons, the spirit of Fog itself.
Yeah, the spirit of the Vape is strong in this game.
But Hannah-chan missing that
rows.
last Fog. Gonna lose out on that, engine battle over a long turn. Dutch Boy just a bit of an edge there with the 3 Fogs taking on every single row. And no weather clears from either player. They're playing a risky game, not bringing weather clears to tournaments, but we've seen it punish other players before, yesterday as well in a few series. So Hannah-chan may be regretting not adding a bit of a weather clear here and there.
Yeah, he certainly will be. It would be enormous right now, especially with the, I want to say recent, but it was a while ago, change to Clear Skies, allowing it to buff damaged units under weather. I mean, Arcaspores enable that perfectly too, but yeah, weather clear is really underrepresented so far in this tournament, and it is showing.
And Dutch Boy has to try his best to stay in this round without giving Hannah-chan the pass, the extra card to take back finally. That dry pass in round 1 enabled him to kind of, get a card advantage. Even though he's getting up round 1, he gets card advantage. In this case, we see him 2 cards up with a bit of a gap to cover here. But if he can do it, he still has to play all his engines though. I mean, maybe he can't. Maybe he just has to commit to playing this engine first, the Dow or the Arc Spores.
Yeah, I think engines is really going to be the key thing.
Or just the Sea-Troll to open up a gap.
Because those triple Arcaspores in the hand of Dutch Boy, if round 3 does run long, represents so much value, whereas because of cards like Muzzle, Hannah-chan is actually lacking even in Resurrective Engines right now.
He goes for the huge swing here to maybe open up a gap to play an Arcspore and start playing his engine units out without, giving Hannah-chan this card back.
Important to note that Hannah-chan's Fog on Dutch Boy's melee row will start dealing half damage soon, as that Foglet is the last card above 1 health remaining in the melee row. So after next turn, Hannah-chan is running on 50% Fog efficiency in the melee row.
And every turn this goes on, Hannah-chan, losing out a little bit every single turn. Nothing ticking on his board in terms of Arc Spores. Only Dutch Boy has one on his board, and of course less Fog, like you said, than his opponent. So every single turn Hannah-chan can't get that card back. It is just a detriment for himself.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'll be interested to see if we almost see like a Barbara Ghazi come out of a Monster's Nest or something, just to continue the round a little bit and establish that carryover, but we've already seen he likes playing it for Ancient Foglet. But Cyclops coming down onto the Dow. Nice little tempo play, although that Dow only at 2 strength. Interesting choice on hitting the Foglet there. What do you think of that? That actually just limited his own Fog capability. Perhaps he was hoping the Arcaspore jump there?
Potentially. I mean, that's really the only option. Maybe he also just misplayed. It could happen. I mean, obviously there's a lot to think about in these games, and you don't always make the most optimal plays. Being one of the top Gwent players, you normally want to, but in some cases you can make mistakes. These players are human. I can confirm that. No robots in the tournament
except
just
Tailbot.
yet. Except Tailbot, of course. He's
a god, not a
different species of player. But Arcspores have a chance to come out here finally, thanks to that Fog damage. Dow as well, because of that. I think Dow will, with the Arcspore it'll be, even with the Fog ticking, only ticking for 1 though, of course, and the Arcspore ticking as well, it makes it so that Dutch Boy does stay ahead and opens up possibilities for the Griffin and the Cyclops with the Dow there as well.
Yeah, nice little space to play his Dow in, and like you say, that Griffin being available is just such a huge point burst, and the Cyclops, allowing him to potentially keep triple Arcaspore, which usually you'd see come out of the Brew-S res.
It's a big swing though.
That is pretty big.
And also denies the Dow combo, so big punish from Hannah-chan. onto Dutch Boy. That tribute into the Mandrake, not something you see in every Dagon list, but Hannah-chan is, a big supporter of Mandrake and the tribute options you have as well. Similar to Vesemir, but more, specific for monsters and with, of course, Monsterness as well, which is an extra bonus. So Hannah-chan, great play there, denying a lot of points from Dutch Boy. And Arcspore coming out from Dutch Boy.
Yeah, this will be to load up the Cyclops with a little bit more value if he does go for playing it, as well as if that Arcaspore were to die, making sure that he has a Griffin proc too. So that Dow removal, though, was really, really excellently timed from Hannah-chan.
And only 3 damage coming out from that fog. Both Arcspores will move in time to kind of deny that extra value. So only 3 points coming out, putting Dutch Boy at 40 points, but because that Arcspore damage, it would put Hannah-chan at 39, still not giving the pass to Hannah-chan. So very smart play here from Dutch Boy, calculating all the different scenarios, all different effects, taking every single turn and making sure he still stays ahead, even if it's only by 1 point. It's just enough to not let Hannah-chan pass here.
It certainly is. So it'll be interesting to see how Hannah-chan chooses to proceed here. I mean, that additional fog is starting to really do its damage.
See the melee and range rows for Hannah-chan almost clearing out, so a few more turns and those fogs are going to be useless. They've done their job. Killed a lot of units already. And Hannah-chan helping out that fog with, get an early death there. And limiting that fog, just only 1 more turn left and only 1 point of damage instead of 2, so denying a bit of that, value over time from Dutch Boy.
Certainly is. Now, Dutch Boy has an interesting dilemma here because as soon as he starts killing those Death Wish units, that's committing really high tempo plays, but he's not going to want to spend anything like Osrul yet. Unless he wants to be an absolute madman and res the Rot Fiend for the meme play, but he does not. He manages to keep the gap open for now.
3 Archers on board, I mean, it's a lot of damage over time. One of the fogs is already useless, but, 3 Archers and your opponent has none at all, so it's a big difference. And that Archspore dying, the one at 1 strength, if it jumps to the melee row and wins that, 33% chance with the Wolves, that combat to the death in that fog row, it could be a good boost of tempo that, denies some future value, but gets you that instant 4 points of damage, as long as it hits a unit that has at least 4 points of health.
Absolutely, it is actually turning into the instance where the worst case scenario could turn good because the round will be short enough to actually benefit from its death.
And Ghoul coming out, eating the only spy already in the graveyard. Hannah-chan, of course, had the Frightener, Dutch Boy's Frightener in his graveyard, so he consumes that right away and gets a huge tempo swing there. And I bet Dutch Boy would have loved a second She-Troll here for that insane value in the back row, but not to be seen.
Yeah, this is Hannah-chan going extremely aggressive. We need to start seeing Cyclops. Cyclops is one of the few cards that would close the gap sufficiently.
Yeah, there's a big gap now. Hannah-chan finally found, a card that could really pull him ahead. And maybe Dutch Boy has to finally say, Hannah-chan, you won this battle. I'll let you get your card back and we'll go into a short round 3 and see who has the better cards. But looking tough here for Dutch Boy.
Dutch Boy's at risk of getting 2-0'd if it keeps going particularly, but yeah, he may just have to play.
You want to hit, of course, one of the higher strength units to just create, as many 4, units that have more than 4 strength as possible. And there we go, it hits the Cyclops, gets the full value there. So very good news for Dutch Boy.
Yeah, due to Arcaspores, he will keep the gap open were Hannah-chan to pass right now. However, Hannah-chan is getting down to very, very powerful cards. And that siege row is full, so anything he plays will be getting placed into fog damage.
There's a pass from Hannah-chan.
Comes out, there we go. Well, that was an incredibly resilient round from Dutch Boy, managing to not give the card back. Very intense round between these two players.
Great calculations there from Dutch Boy, able to really say, every single turn I'm looking at all the different effects that are coming down, the fogs from both boards, the Arcspores on his side of the board, and making sure that every single time he's ahead, even if it's only by 1 point. And here we see the the rewards, the fruit for his labor. 4 cards, and Hannah-chan only at 3 cards. So a big difference in a short round 3.
Certainly is.
And also, I mean, some
Gell's
great
coming out as a wonderful draw for Dutch Boy. Hannah-chan adding the Griffin to his hand.
Great value there for Dutch Boy. I mean, he has 2 golds, Osrul, of course. We also see, a very similar, hand from Hannah-chan, but just 1 card less, missing that Arcspore maybe, and also trading a Slizzard for a gold. So not looking too great for Hannah-chan. We're going to have to find out and see what each player can do with their cards, but Dutch Boy, I think, is in the favored position.
Yeah, Dutch Boy to start is definitely looking a little bit favoured here. He certainly has the Brew-S opener, should he choose to go perhaps, you know, Arcaspore Dow or even double Arcaspore, because the round has a decent length on it. But I would expect to see a singular... Oh no, the Dow is banished actually, he cannot res it.
Goes for the spy right away, steals that opportunity from Hanichan to use that same Oz roll into that spy. Of course, we saw one consumed already by the Ghoul in the last turn, in the last round, so Dutch Boy gets that sneaky Oz roll to go off first and steals that value away from his opponent.
Brew-S comes out for Hanichan, resurrecting only a singular down, not what you want to play from your Brew-S, but that really, muzzle was just huge.
That seals the deal there. I mean, the Slizzards, like we said earlier, they kind of don't work at all with the Brew-S. They kind of affect it in a negative way, and we see here why. Hanichan, only 1 unit to res, and I think he knows that this game may already be over.
Yeah, he's certainly looking frustrated, as that Slizzard is not going to find a target, or at least a target of synergy.
Looking at Dutch Boy's cards, I know there are no goals left, and that's the straightaway.
Forfeit comes out. When your Brew-S is that cut up, it's just never going to go well for you in round 3.
A lot of players don't like Slizzards in Dig on Deathwish, and that might be a reason why as well, affecting your Brew-S in a negative way and just not helping out in the round 3 finisher. So Hanichan, not the greatest cards left for round 3, and also 1 card down. The dry pass from Dutch Boy, I mean, Blue Coin, he started off this round having to go first this game, and he said, you know, I don't care at all. You know, I'm going to go for a dry pass round 1, play it a long round 2, make sure to always stay ahead, and then go for a very short round 3, being a card up.
Those are rocking the beautiful red shoes today. Stunning.
And Dutch Boy only needs 1 more win to seal, you know, this pass to the finals and the ticket for the Challenger as well, to punch that ticket for the April Challenger.
Punching his ticket to the Challenger.
In the Salt Mine. And right away, Mulligans, very easy ones there, the Foglet and the Roach. And, you know, maybe the Mandrake as well, to make sure that that Wispus Tribute is not dead. You know, Hanichan already having that, you know, semi-dead Brew-S, definitely does not want to see any more dead golds in his games.
He certainly doesn't, however, with very, very few ways of playing around that weather, Dutch Boy may struggle to deal with this Dagon, but he is on the red coin, and Hanichan opts for the dry pass.
Yeah, finally, I mean, blue coin dry pass. He couldn't in the last game. He was blue coin because of that War Dancer, but luckily for the the rest of the world, there are no War Dancers in Skellige at the moment. Maybe they might be added in the future. That would be quite the day. But Dutch Boy here, it's a very easy veteran to start his kind of his setup for his future game plan by buffing up all his units that have that same Turzik tag. And there's a Foglet coming in.
There's a Foglet on the draw, not what you want to see, but he swaps it for a Gels, which is a excellent mulligan.
He has his gold, he has his engine units, he has Osroll as well, so great cards there from Hanichan. And looking at Dutch Boy's hand, he has Restore and 2 key golds as well, or 3 key golds in Burn a Brand, Coral, and Triss Telekinesis. So great start here. Dutch Boy always has to go high tempo to start trying stay ahead and not let Hanichan get that card back. Obviously, Hanichan should normally get a pretty slow start after the Fogs come out with the Arc Sport and the Dow coming out. So I think Dutch Boy's going to look for a chance to pass a bit further on, not just yet, but in a little while.
Yeah, I think he's going to want to see some of these Fogs committed as well, so that he doesn't have to deal with those round 3. I think it's going to be quite key for him here. He knows that if that Fog gets ticking in a super long round, that is just only going to be to his detriment.
And Coral right away, a huge swing, getting rid of that Arc Spore, denying a lot of value over time, and also Roach coming out to join this party. 4 points added on in terms of tempo, which are really going to be, great for Dutch Boy to be able to stay ahead and not let Hanichan catch up and get that card back.
And the veterans are marching on, coming out piece by piece, buffing up all of those units in the hand, everything gaining increased value for later plays.
There's a big play from Hanichan, Foglet and Roach coming out, double the tempo from Dutch Boy's gold, and also, the fog effect being applied, creating two points of damage every single turn that this round 2 goes on for.
And here comes the Bearmaster. Get him, Wojtek.
Important to see if we're going to see Burn a Brand this turn, or if Dutch Boy decides to cut it short, go for a bit of a longer round 3, and go for his own, weather for next turn. I think if Hanichan applies, another Fog here with Dagon and doesn't catch up in points, it might be the cue for Dutch Boy to get out of here.
I think that is the key moment. I think that Dutch Boy wants to see that second Fog come down, then he wants to get out the round. And Hanichan, conversely, probably knows that will happen.
Maybe even just, 2 Arc Spores and the Fog coming out next turn. I think Dutch Boy has to make a fairly big tempo play here. He could go for the Spearmate into quite a few bronze units here. Well, only the Bearmaster actually, veteran is in hand.
It is indeed. So the Bearmaster comes down for a pretty significant point gap. 27 points opening up between these two players.
If Dagon comes out now, I think that's Dutch Boy's chance. Nope.
Merylon's coming out.
Making sure to not give up that Dagon just yet. He has a chance to try and save it for a longer round 3 if possible.
Yeah, both players understand the power of that fog when it gets ticking, and Dutch Boy is going to want to see it come down before he gets out of this round, so we may even see Burner committed as the round does get shorter and shorter.
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance between both these players. Obviously, Dutch Boy's in the leading position. He makes the final decision in terms of when this round ends and when round 3 begins, but Hanachan has to be able to really say, you know, am I losing value by not playing this Dagon early? Am I going to end up getting 2-0? I mean, there's a lot to think about here, so Burner Brand is 4 points of damage every single turn. So, and we already see a huge gap here by Dutch Boy playing some great tempo cards after already, you know, finishing the setup early on with the veterans.
Yeah, we're going to see Griffin most likely on the Dow here to try and close up that gap a little bit, but it is not enough to give him the lead. However, that fog still hasn't come out. Dutch Boy still wanting to see a little bit more core plays come out of Hanachan before he gets out of the round. He has very powerful plays in his hand. I wonder, does he set up the burner? That's a real sign of committal, but no. He's actually going to opt for pulling out his Uldor instead.
Also a very easy way to you know, make sure he gets the card advantage back by just playing a Spy. If your opponent can't answer back, which Hanachan has the chance to with the Gales, into a Frightener. No ADC from Hanachan, only that one Frightener pull if you can get it with the Gales, so another Spy check here from Dutch Boy.
Yeah, the Spy check comes out, could be answered with Gales. Gales, of course, will give a fairly solid chance to Hanachan of getting Frightener out, but he's really going to have to hope to see that.
And he goes for it right away. Can he get it?
He gets
the Frightener.
He gets the Frightener, there you go.
Passes the Spy
very
test.
relieved.
And make sure to also, you know, populate that Ranger that was about to get, you know, extinct there. The Coral and the Veteran about to die. And now we have 2 big 11 boys back in that row. So more than enough damage for quite a few turns, you know, if this is round 2 keeps on going for more and more.
Absolutely.
And Dutch Boy has a pass here, if he wanted it.
He actually doesn't because the Arcaspores, right? The two
Exactly.
Arcaspores
Yeah, that's
on
very
board, they
true.
would take and take him under, so that card, man, the added value it adds up to is just crazy good. However, an 8-strength Spear Maiden is nothing to scoff at.
Instead, committing, you know, a very big, you know, card and restore just to make sure that Hanachan can't catch back up in cards, and it's you know, it's a legitimate play, but you're giving up a lot of things that you want to be saving for round 3, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting that he's choosing to commit heavy power pieces like the Restore onto the Spear Maiden and not adding it back to hand, going straight for the play on it. But he's not committing something like Burner Brand, which if you're going to play this far in, would have already ticked a great deal of value on that ranged or siege row by now, right?
He's looking for the pass, if he can get it right now, but we're going to see the fog ticking, and it's just not going to be enough with the Arcsport ticking as well. So Dutch Boy had his chance to pass. I think the Ulrich might have been a risky play, not taking that pass earlier, and now he's going to find himself having wasted cards like Restore and still not being able to fend off Hanachan and get that extra card for round 3.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how he proceeds here, honestly. Finally, no. I mean, I just really want to see this Burner Brand played. I don't know if anybody else is getting that sense. At this point, I think
he's noticed he's made a mistake. He should have either played the Burner Brand earlier and committed to a very long round 2, or tried to find the pass and get that extra card advantage. But at this point, he's in no man's land, kind of torn between both options. And Burner Brand now it feels bad because your opponent's going to be able to easily play Dagon as well, get that extra points, you know, every single turn, and make sure to, I think, stay ahead. You have fog damage taking as well, plus the Arcsport. This simply just ties the engine points every single turn.
It does.
Dagon will put Hanachan back in the lead.
Yeah, so Burner comes out really missing a lot of value from that card this round. It would have been actually relatively devastating if played earlier on, completely negating the engine work of Hanachan. But for now, it is just going to negate it, like you said. And there comes the Dagon. So he's got his second fog out, but
all this really does is put you know, both players back in a semi-equal position for round 3. And Dutch Boy had the chance to pull off a very big advantage by having an extra card. He lost it, and at this point,
I mean, a 15-point gap to close is going to start demanding, you know, pretty powerful answers from Hanachan, and those Griffins and the Cyclops are gone. So Hanachan does have to commit pretty powerful plays here, but with cards like Wisp and Monster's Nest, he's not going to have too much trouble doing that.
and if Hanachan catches up, he'll have the advantage for round 3, and also he'll have better cards. I mean, he has his gold still left in hand. We see cards like Restore being played already by Dutch Boy, so Might have committed too far into this round 2. Had his pass earlier on to create an equal chance for round 3, and could have saved his key cards like Burn the Brand and like Restore, but now Dutch Boy, I think a lot of pressure on him.
It certainly is. This is potentially the last game of the series. Dutch Boy playing for a place in the grand final and his challenger ticket, and Hannah-chan playing for a place in the final too.
And a big carryover play there by healing up that Arc Spore. It's a big tell that he's going to be using that Brewis to res that Arc Spore next turn. So not only is Hannah-chan going to be an extra card up and still in the lead here in round 2, but he also has a better play in round 3, and Dutch Boy just has to give up here. I mean, he went too far in here, and now he just can't crawl back out. It's just too...
He either has to give up here, or he has to commit and just go all out.
If you commit, those are really... I mean, is Brewis completely dead? I think there has to be with the... Yeah, he just gives up. I mean, I think he just went too far into this.
Yeah, I think so too.
The value over time from those cards there is just too much, and Hannah-chan does have to play one more card, but still, no restore for Dutch Boy.
Right? Or just a Dow to get it in the graveyard.
Could have been equal cards and also save cards like Restore, but in this case here, Dutch Boy has a good hand. Don't get me wrong.
He does.
Fairly strong cards, but that 13-point Arc Spore and this Barbagalzi here are going to be big advantages for Hannah-chan for the
12
round
points
3.
of carryover represented by those two cards, so that's almost an additional card in itself. So really smart carryover plays by the Chinese player here.
And of course, Osriel, a great finisher. 18 points is nothing to scoff at
Certainly
in a
isn't.
short round 3.
Hey, that's my saying. Alright, so we can see how round 3 unfolds. Both players holding powerful cards, sure. Extra res comes out for Dutch Boy.
A great mulligan there. You can pull that, the Griffin will have targets, of course, with the Arc Spore. And of course, the Slizzard will have a ton of targets as well. I think there are a few options there still for Hannah-chan.
Triple Priestess of Freya in the hand of Dutch Boy.
No Ceres, unfortunately. Got that extra effects there, but Dutch Boy still with a fairly strong hand. I mean, we see these absolutely massive Bear Masters at 16 points for a bronze. That's quite above the average, but will it be enough to combat this 13-point Arc Spore and this fairly decent hand from Hannah-chan?
Already a 27-point gap, and there is Osriel sitting for 18 points in the hand too, but those Bear Masters are pretty big, and Triss Telekinesis can help out. This is going to be a very closely fought round here.
But she brooks no insult.
I mean, let's do some quick math, right? Arcospor's tick goes up to 48 if he reses another Bear Master. I know 49 actually, because the Priestess too, so... My goodness.
There's a great Slizzard. I mean, a Cyclops into a Dow, plus the 2 points of the thinning, and the tempo boost there from the Slizzard is really the best bronze you could have hoped for this short round 3.
Yeah, this is just going to be way too much with the Osriel for Triss Telekinesis to overcome. It's going to eat that Frightener. Go up to 18 points.
Nothing to punish this here, no Coral, but even then it's just an enormous point gap. Triss is great, Recon is great, especially if you have very strong bronze units, but it just won't be enough. I mean, an enormous point gap here, Arc Spore.
But it is not enough.
Taking as well, and Hannah-chan able to tie this series up again, 2-2. Dutch Boy maybe went a bit too far in, committed a bit too much in round 2. It's always hard. I mean, that's the hardest round and the hardest position to be in, I think, to know when to continue bleeding, when to stop in round 2. And in the end there, Hannah-chan was able to best Dutch Boy in the same way that Dutch Boy bested Hannah-chan the last game. So, a bit of a coin flip there in terms of game plans. And finally, we're back to the very last game of this series, 2-2 Hannah-chan, once again in a game 5 for his series. Very disputed matches here.
Yeah, both players staring at a place in the finals. 2-2 in this best of 5. This last game is to decide everything. It's going to be Hannah-chan on Jan Calvate playing Nilfgaard Alchemy versus Dutch Boy's Kraken Crate Veterans. Who do you give the edge to in terms of decks?
Veterans has been pretty good for Dutch Boy here, but Jan Calvate is considered, Alchemy is considered tier 1 by a lot of players. It has a lot of things that go well for it. We are going to be looking at Hannah-chan on red coin, I believe, which is a big advantage as well in most cases.
Yeah, you certainly want to be playing Alchemy on red coin a lot of the time. And,
both players with Roach in hand.
But, we've said many times, Crack is one of the better decks to be on blue coin, if you have to play on blue coin.
Roaches get mulligan back into the deck. We'll join the party later on, but right now, Dutch Boy on blue coin is go for the dry pass here. I personally like it a lot. I think Alchemy can't really dry pass back round 2, so you have to really start playing out round 2 as well. And they have some very strong plays in general with Viper Witchers and just, overall Calvi and just very strong plays on average. But Dutch Boy might find a window to punish Hannah-chan and get that card back as well, so it's going to be tricky to say here.
However, it looks like he wants to start out with a veteran from the hand. Not opting for crack.
Seen it all already. And then some.
Obviously a lot on the line here. Dutch boy trying to get to the finals of this Gwent Open number 4, but also trying to punch a ticket to the Challenger in April in a salt mine. Great location, great tournament. A lot of players already confirmed. Great lineup there. And Hannah-chan already, he has the pass to the Challenger final, Challenger.
There's so much to play for. Challenger's the real prize at stake here. Of course, the odd $1,000 isn't too bad, but Challenger is really where glory is earned, and that is what these players are competing for. But yeah, I can't wait for next Challenger. I want to try saying the place like Wielki Salt Mine. It's so hard. Polish names, man.
I'm not even going to try, but we do see a 9-point runestone there. Not ideal. I mean, a lot of players, a lot of people in the community say that maybe runestones always get you what you want, but in this case here, Hannah-chan being punished, and the runestone, only a 9-point silver, not really the average at all.
Yeah, way below curve on that runestone indeed.
Back in line.
But Slay Driver, makes up for it. A great, 13-point bronze with very little setup. So great play from Hannah-chan there. Making sure to catch up on points here and stay ahead on even cards.
Yeah, and it looks like we'll see Dutch boy considering what to go for next. Starting to get a lot of points up on these Tursak units.
We don't see any veteran option from Crack. Obviously, all veterans already. We see them all on the board, all 3 of them. You can't have more than 3 bronzes in your deck, so Crack will be pulling a Hunter instead. Still a good play. But just, a key thing to note here that normally want to always pull the veterans out with Crack instead.
Yeah, it gives a nice res for later, for sure. But typically you will be playing those with Crack. However, he does have another veteran to drop, so he still has nice point plays in hand. However, those Viper Witches are going to start finding very meaty targets soon.
To watch out what you kill, though, with the Viper Witch, because the Freya can just res them back up again, so...
Certainly can. That's why it's going on the Hunter instead of the Veteran, not allowing them to stack those buffs up.
And that's why finding a pass if he wants it. Only 1 point ahead, but that's enough to if he wants to take that pass and get that guaranteed card back, instead of, having to lose on even on blue coin maybe. Could have taken it, but looks like he doesn't want it. Has to keep on going.
So, of course, Priestess Freya can res Clan Brock for Hunters, so it will be doing damage there.
Very solid 16-point play for a bronze. That's quite good.
Not bad.
The Mandrake not finding really any value in terms of resetting against this veteran list. It is base strength, which is how this game plan works. So not the greatest value in that sense, but it could always heal a unit. For example, we see that bear there, damaged by 5. Could get some decent silver value, but not ideal against units like Neckers or Longships, for example.
For sure, Dutch boy does have the lead here, so the pass opportunity is available to him, but he's going to go for Burner Brand, setting it up as soon as there's an even semi-established row. Of course, he can play Ulderic into that to give Burner more targets for her Storm.
There are no Harpooners or Whalers being played here for Dutch boy, so that's really the only option to move that. No other create effects can really create any kind of movement card either, so no Dwarven Mercenaries, nothing really to give Dutch boy the chance to move something there as well.
And here comes the reses, resing up those Brockvars. Of course, that Vicar Aromatic, we theorize, was included to counter great swords, but it's actually doing work here against veterans too.
Ulrich, a very interesting card. It discards the card you don't pick, so it thins your deck, but could sometimes thin you of a card you want to keep for later, like a gold if you get the option of 2 golds. So helpful in some ways, not very helpful in others.
Yeah, it's always been one of the riskier of the Silver Spies available in Gwent.
There's a Freya.
And there goes a Freya.
Straight to the Shadow Realm. We saw it there, banished. Not going to be in the graveyard, of course. It was discarded and doomed. Indeed.
Previously, that wouldn't have been the case, of course, but now discarded cards with Doomed do get banished, so it is not resable, sadly.
And Hannah-chan committing Kalvit here, which is a big save because he does not have Kahir, so this is not a play that you make to enable that Kahir later on. There is no Kahir in Hannah-chan's list. Instead, he has, Dandelion Poet is really the standout goal that he's running here instead of Kahir, which is a risky card to run when Mandrake is so relevant in the current meta. Could get rid of that Kahir or that Kalvit altogether, so a safe play here, but Kalvit is a big committal for this round as well.
It certainly is, yeah. Kalvit is a serious power play, much like Vilgefortz. He's sort of up there with, the Kahirs, Kalvit, Vilgefortz. Those are your really core power plays that you want to maintain, and him spending that is a serious sign of committal to this round.
And again, no weather clears from Hannah-chan, but this, this current situation opens up a great line of play in a few turns. That Mandrake could heal that Ulrich back up to, create a huge boost and make Mandrake quite relevant in the matchup where it really didn't have the greatest targets if you're talking about interacting with your opponent's board.
Yeah, even if he was to go for faster tempo on the Bear, it's pretty nice too. Won't hit the same ceiling as Ulrich, but not bad at all. Now the counter-roller comes out to answer Ulrich.
There's the option to pass here from Dutch Boy. Gives Hannah-chan control of round 2 and 3, but also make sure that Dutch Boy can't lose on even, which is, quite a detriment when you don't have carryover or a War Dancer for round 2.
However, he chooses to march on with the Hunters, both players definitely wanting to claim this round 1.
Dutch Boy knows that there's Noka here in Hannah-chan's list, gets rid of that Kalvit, and no real, extra problem from that. And there's an option here from Dutch Boy to use that Hunter to kill the Udalrik there. The Bear would still be able to get Mandrake, so there's that line of play still available. But taking away a few more points from Hannah-chan's game plan, but also taking away a point from Skellige Storm. So it's hard to say if that's the most efficient line of play here for Dutch Boy.
Yeah, sure. When you're playing around such meticulous point gaps, though, it can be. But Hannah-chan comes out with the pass, deciding 25 points is too much to overcome. And Dutch Boy takes round 1.
Especially with Skellige Storm already ticking. It's hard to combat not only the big point gap, but also that extra points that Dutch Boy's getting every single turn that goes on. But Hannah-chan has the setup ready. He has the ointments available. He has the Sire to shuffle back Roach. He has, Vilgeforce as a finisher. So a lot going right there for Hannah-chan's hand. No Restore for Dutch Boy. A key card he's missing here.
Yeah, he is missing his Restore, and that is definitely going to hurt him later on.
No other curse units other than the Ulrich in Dutch Boy's deck, so that Heim will have to, create a silver unit from Hannah-chan's list. And there aren't really that many, only a Sire and Roach being available. So he has an Sire of his own to try and shuffle back cards if he needs to, or mess up with his opponent's graveyard as well. Maybe shuffle back some units for the ointment, so to try and mess up that ointment.
Yeah,
so
you shuffle back the Viper Witches, right? Deny the ointment reses.
It's an option, definitely.
I'd be interested if he goes to that fairly swiftly, actually. Is he maybe seeking to deny that as an option?
Looking at the alchemy units in that graveyard, we do only see those 2 Viper Witchers, and of course the Slave Driver, so a few options still available for Hannah-chan. And could always create more in this round too.
However, he's going down to the wire on the rope timer. Going for the pass.
That's the guarantee. That's the guaranteed card back, but it also enables Hannah-chan to play a very, fairly low tempo Sire here to set up more points in the future, which could also, have him mulligan and draw into Roach. So it's a risky call here from Hannah-chan.
It certainly is. I'll be interested to see if he does go for that or if he just opts for a safer Slave Driver. However, Dutch Boy is going to be hoping to see that Restore come out in round 3.
Both players have thinned their deck down quite a bit, so they could get some nice spicy draws, nice spicy top decks in round 3. We'll see Hannah-chan just thinning out his deck just a tiny bit more, not risking a Sire play in round 2, instead trying to save that for round 3 and make sure his deck doesn't draw any kind of dead cards in round 3.
That is certainly the case. These draws are going to be crucial for both players. Roach comes out for Hannah-chan, forcing the mulligan.
And Roach hasn't been played yet, actually, so a Sire cannot shuffle Roach back because it wasn't played. There were no golds played
come out.
round 1 at all, so...
No Restore coming out for Dutch Boy, though.
Both players with a bit of a, not optimal plays. A Sire can't shuffle Roach back just yet. It may die in this, in this battle in round 3, but for right now, a Sire not going to find the optimal value you normally want with it. And of course, Roach not found for Dutch Boy. Or Restore, rather.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he does go for the shuffling back Viper Witcher players. Of course, Hannah-chan is unlikely to res a Viper Witcher first turn as it has no target, so even though Dutch Boy doesn't get to go first, he does potentially get to make that play. Be interested to see if he goes for it.
Yes? What is it?
Cantrell shuffle back into Dutch Boy's deck. There is an ADC in Dutch Boy's list, but it's not in hand right now. So luckily for Dutch Boy, he has dodged that bullet. There's also the chance for an interesting line of play here, with an Asire pull from this Heim and then a decoy onto that Asire. Could really, create a lot of problems for Hannah-chan and those ointments.
Yeah, that could ruin Hannah-chan's day for sure. Is that what we're going to see?
It's a low tempo decoy, but Dutch Boy could, get a bit of an edge there if if there's 2 ointments that are dead cards.
All right, there's the guaranteed Asire.
If magic dies,
Gonna shuffle back those Viper Witches.
dies with it.
Goes for Udalrik instead.
And Udalrik. Put back his...
He can put back his own Roach as well.
Well, he's got no gold cards to proc it, though. It would be a strange decision.
Dutch Boy really has to think what he's going to be doing here. Could really brick those ointments if he finds that line of play and decides it's the best one.
He's running, putting back his own roach.
Doesn't seem a way to proc it at the moment, but maybe he just didn't see line of play with the ointments there. He does mess up the Vilgefortz if it does pull a dead Cantarella, or a dead Ulrich rather.
We serve her who is virgin, mother, and crone.
That is true. I'm wondering if there's something we're missing in his line of thought here, but that does seem like a strange decision to put his roach back.
A great slave driver there into a Freya, into a huge hunter. You know, a great bronze play when you're not even running either Freyas or hunters in your deck. So
Yeah.
benefiting from your opponent's strategy and just using it
Look at
against
me,
them.
I'm the Skulliger now.
Great plays are from Hannah-chan.
Or so much on the line for both of these players, it being the final round of the final game of these series to see who moves on to the final. If Dutch Boy wins, he goes to Challenger as well. Hannah-chan already guaranteed his spot, but still.
And the Ghoul here denied of that Ulrich that was shuffled back into the deck. Instead, looks like it did eat a different unit that wasn't the Ulrich there because it was shuffled back. So, a bit of a deny there from Dutch Boy, but Dutch Boy I think is looking to be in a bit of a pickle. Do some great plays still left for Hannah-chan. He has a Vilgefortz. Could pull a Cantarella here though. Could be game deciding.
Stars reflected in a pond for the nice.
It's
Does not.
no,
Finds
that's
a-
fine for him.
And no Coral here from Dutch Boy to punish that 19-point Ghoul either. This is an enormous point gap. Dutch Boy did not find the cards he needed for this round 3. I think Restore missing.
The time for blathering is past!
Well, he's going to go on with his game plan, playing down these Bearmasters. Decoy is available to him.
Could maybe decoy the Sire now as well. And break that last ointment. I believe there are only 3 cards. Oh, there's definitely a lot of cards available. He has the Bearmasters as well, so
Yeah.
more than enough cards there. Couldn't have bricked the ointments either way.
How did that incantation go? Here's our chance.
Of course, Vilgefortz helping out and enabling that ointment again with killing slave drivers or you know, small units in general. So, Hannah-chan just too many points ahead here, I think. Mandrake not the greatest card, but still.
14-point gap. Mandrake doesn't represent too much value, just sitting at a 6 at the moment. But Viper Witch coming down, of course, another 15-point bronze play from that ointment. 39-point gap. Decoy onto Sigdriffer, rezzing out another veteran. But there's still a 13-point gap with 6 points to come. That reconnaissance simply is not going to be enough to do it.
This Mandrake is really bad, though. I mean, this Mandrake is only 6 points. There's really nothing better for Hannah-chan to do here. Could we see? I mean, a 20-point bronze from Recon would be quite the.
Rez onto.
Yeah, only the veteran. The Hunter's only 16 points.
I promise you a quick.
There you
just
go. So
not
Dutch
enough.
Boy misses out by 3 points. Hannah-chan takes the series 3-2 and is our first finalist for later on. And Dutch Boy misses out on his spot at Challenger.
Great play from both players. I mean, very close series in the end. Only 3 points difference in that game 3, in the game 5, sorry. And Hannah-chan, not only does he, you know, obviously already had the ticket for Challenger, but he also set, you know, it makes it so that Schmel has that ticket for the final, you know, the Challenger spot there. So that's big news for Schmel. Schmel obviously very happy
he's going to be very happy right now
in the
watching
backstage
room.
watching this series.